Hey guys, this is Sid Patel, CEO of Beverage Trade Network and USA Wine Ratings. This is an amazing video, a gold mine if you are looking to pitch your wine into regional and national chains. I chat with Bruce Abbott. He's a regional buyer and the biggest buyer in Alaska. And we chat about 5 different ways you can work with chains. So check this video out. And also don't forget to subscribe to the Beverage Trade Network channel. Hey guys, this is Sid Patel, CEO of Beverage Trade Network and USA Wine Ratings. We are here at the 8th edition in San Francisco, live, in the judging, and we have Bruce Abbott here. He's the category leader and now the CEO, the president basically, right, of the liquor operations out there for Brown Jug. And I think we've been just chatting. I mean, you guys do much more than that. So why don't you give us a little introduction about your role and about the corporation?
Sure, yeah. I'm the president of what's called Liquor Stores USA North, which has Brown Jug and another banner up there in Alaska. We have 24 licenses that we operate, and they're ranging from tiny little 1,500 foot, corner stores all the way up to 25,000 foot destination stores. We're in Anchorage, Fairbanks, Wasilla, Eagle River, so we have a good footprint around the state, and we're the state's largest liquor retailer.
Fantastic. So thanks again for joining here. I think, I've got the right buyer for you all, to understand and get some insights on how do you really work with a regional or a national chain buyer like him. He handles 26 stores. So let's find, some different ways, and I think we've nailed it down to 5 good ways or different ways that you can work with, buyers like him. So Bruce, why don't we start with, the first one?
Yeah, sure. So the most traditional model, right, to getting product to a regional chain is the distributor model, right? Suppliers sell to distributors who then are going to market and sell wines within the within that market. So very easy for the suppliers, right? Because once they have the brand established with the distributor's doing all the groundwork, right? They're pitching the product, they're merchandising the product, they're delivering the product. That's the upsides of it, right? And it's why the traditional model works so well, that the distributors are poised to deliver those services to retailers. The kind of downsides of it is if you're in a market and with your distributor, even if it's a very, very good distributor, there's always a chance of getting lost there. And that's especially true with some of the larger distributors. And this is not critical of them by any means, but when you have a very, very large distributor that's going to market with some very, very big brands, and say you're a medium-sized brand and a small brand, trying to get the attention that your brand needs to really grow in the market when the distributor, let's be honest, has some much larger priorities, can be really a challenge for them. So I'd say that's probably the detriment of working through that model. But like I said, there's a lot of good things to it as well.
Let's go in the number 2.
Sure. So number 2 is what we kind of call closeouts or deal pricing. And that's a situation that suppliers often find themselves in. They're long on a vintage, they're long on a SKU, and they need to get through it. And what we find is a lot of times that that product is either written off or it's dumped, which is something that no one wants, right? But there's an opportunity to go to a regional chain that has the buying power with that product and say, hey, we can cut you a really great deal on this. It's a one-time deal on this vintage. You'll be able to get it in and do some great pricing on it. So you can either make a great margin or, of course, you can pass on those savings to the customer. Of course, discount retailers, such as the grocery outlets, often do a really great job with this, and they have those relationships with the suppliers. But it's something that smaller suppliers can look at as well. When you work in that model, the distributor in a 3-tier system is really a pass-through for those items. They hit the distributor dock and then are immediately kind of delivered to the retailer. It helps if that retailer has a central warehouse themselves, so they can then redistribute that product out. But it's a solution to those kind of overstock SKUs, those SKUs they're long in inventory on, that sometimes I don't see suppliers using, right? They are dependent on the distributor to move those cases, where sometimes it's a better option to go directly to that regional chain and make them that offer where they're going to be able to maybe move a little faster on that product and have a solution for that supplier that they normally wouldn't have.
And I think even if they don't have a distributor in that state, I'm assuming that you would have a partner that can help. A distributor would just clear for you. And
yeah, for sure. I mean, in a 3-tier state, it's important that you go through all the steps and everything goes through the proper channels. But just because you don't have a distributor in that state doesn't mean you can't go that route. Oftentimes, that retailer like we do has some distributors that will bring the product in, often at a lower margin that you would normally get through that distributor, because they don't have to do anything with that product. They don't have to market it. They don't have to merchandise it. They don't have to deliver it. It's really just free money for them. They fill out some paperwork, make sure the taxes and everything are taken care of, make sure that the TTB is happy, and then we get the product on our shelves.
Great. So we chatted on the traditional model, on the blowout clearance model. Let's go number 3.
Yeah, so number 3 is really, it's kind of 3 parts. So it's really part of we talked about 5, but those 5, these next 3 are really closely related. And those are private label, control label, and exclusive. And like I said, they're really closely related, but there's some key differences there. Most of you are familiar with a private label. Private label is when you approach a retailer, or a retailer approaches you, or a restaurant approaches you, and one of you says, hey, we want to make a brand that's exclusive for your business. Or the business says, hey, we want a wine or a spirit that we can call our own. And in that model, of course, you're working with them to develop a brand that's going to work with them, develop a package that's going to work with them, and ideally be talking back and forth on what the liquid needs to be to satisfy their needs. And once they get that in their market, that's something that they're going to make a priority, because it's something, of course, that only they can sell. It's almost always a product that they're going to take larger margins on. So they're motivated to sell that product over the national brands because they're going to make more money on that product. The advantage of whether it be private label, controlled label, or exclusive, because they are the only ones selling that product in the market, there's no basis of comparison price-wise, which means there's a lot more pricing flexibility at retail to take a larger margin on that. And so for suppliers that are looking, especially now, where there's a little bit of a glut of wine, I think we can agree, there is, I think, a lot of opportunity for them to take some of the stuff that they normally would bottle traditionally, and instead take that product to a retailer and say, hey, here's something that we can offer you. You can make great money on it, and we can move through some volume.
So could you clearly break out the differences? We still have to touch on the exclusive and the control. I guess you would be doing that next.
Yeah, so next up is, of course, control. And control is really similar to private label, but what it does is leverage the fact that most of these regional chains, or mini regional chains across the United States, aren't in direct competition with each other, right? So for me, up in Alaska, with the Brown Jug banner, what Bevmo does, or GoPuff, or what Liquor Barn, or what Binny's, or what Specs does in the lower 48, or ABC, it doesn't affect my business, right? So there's opportunity there to create a brand that can be sold by multiple regional chains that don't compete with each other, right? So you can have one brand, and then it's a private label for each of them in their respective markets, and that's what a control brand.
Pretty much the juice is the same, the labels are different. You're slapping different labels.
You can have the same label because they're not competing with each other in all their region. The geographies are different, right? So
But you're picking one retail partner in one state and you're telling them in Alaska, it's just you. Like
Exactly.
that. Understood.
Yeah. And there's actually groups of retailers that work together. The Alliance is probably the most prominent one.
Okay.
So you can approach a group like that and pitch a wine to them and basically have an automatic group of retailers that aren't in competition with each other that can all take advantage of that particular wine or spirit that you're producing. It's exclusive for them in all of their markets, which means that each of them is taking that high margin, and because it's only them in that market, again, there's that price comparison in their individual markets, and they're going to make it a priority to sell.
It's a good one, yeah. And I think the last one is exclusive.
It's exclusive, and so this is something that we have a lot of success with in our market, and that is instead of working with a supplier to create a custom wine like they would with a private label or a control label, instead we look for wines that are already being made. They're made, they're real wines from real places, made by real people, I like to say, that maybe don't have a distributor presence in a particular market. And like I said, it can be challenging for a small or medium brand to break into a new market and get enough attention from distributors to, say, get placements across a large regional chain. There's a lot of other national brands competing for that space. By taking that brand and then treating it essentially like a control brand or a private label, even though it is an already established brand in that market, offering it to that regional chain, it essentially creates points of distribution automatically in the market, and often what is the largest retailer in that particular area. So taking a brand that's not performing, up to snuff, or you're having trouble getting into a market in the Northeast or the Northeast or the Northwest, and instead finding a chain in that area and saying, hey, we're going to take this brand and this is going to be exclusive for you. You're kind of combining the best of both worlds and having what is often a very, very high quality product, and having that advantage of that chain, treating it as a top priority for them like they would a bespoke private label brand.
For USA ratings, how can entrants, once they win the medals, can use their medals in effective marketing with chains and, programming with buyers like you?
For sure. I mean, definitely having that in their initial presentation to the buyer, I think is important. One of the things that sets the USA ratings apart is that it incorporates how that bottle, looks on the shelf, and if that packaging of that product is something that people are going to use in their decision to pick up that bottle. So having that accolade when they're doing the presentation certainly is a great selling point when you're getting to the buyer. And then having that buyer being able to put that point score on a product, as we all know, points still sell bottles. People are so overwhelmed when they go to a liquor store, especially a large one. Having that reassurance that someone else thinks that this is a great product, and having that on the shelf is that silent salesperson that's often going to make the buying decision for them.